Good afternoon, everyone. The time is 3:30, so we're going to honor your time. And of course, you're extending your workday to be here with us. So thank you, and we value you for doing that. So give yourselves a hand for being here. Do we have any Teacher of the Years or former Teacher of the Years here? Former Employee of the Years? Let's acknowledge our Teachers of the Year. Well, I am Dr. Lee, the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, and the purpose of tonight's dialogue with you all will be specifically to review how we're ramping up learning expectations to increase our students' readiness when they graduate. And so specifically, tonight, we will share with you a lot around the why we're advancing and accelerating expectations. We will share with you what exactly we are doing for the Phase 1 implementation. And then we're going to share with you how we're going to ensure supportive implementation. So in addition to our teachers being here, we have other departments and divisions, and later you'll hear how we work collectively to really think through the needs of our students. So at this time, I would like to call up our illustrious superintendent, Dr. Beasley, to set the why. Let's welcome him.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I know it's been a long day. Did they learn today? Yes. All right, very good. And so our goal is, of course, not to hold you long, but thank you for coming because we're trying to get the word out, and I believe the word is out, informing parents and all as to what we're doing. And so we should have an agenda here. But we also prepared, and this was a quick preparation. We came up with this idea about 20 minutes ago. A little handout of an activity that I did with the principals and administrators, and I knew you all would not have time to do the activity, so we just kind of jotted the data down. Forgive the typo in the Gwinnett box, the last cell in the Gwinnett column. That should be 1871.2, 1871.2. But I want you to just look at that very quickly, if you will. And clearly there are more counties in the metro area, aren't there? So we just picked a few just to make a point, at least a few points. Look at the population, clearly. But we are the 5th largest in a school system in the state. And you can see why we are the 5th largest in the state, because we're the 5th largest population size of the county in the metro area. But look at the median income. You all see that? Implications, huh? Yes. Look at the median value of homes. Look at the percent of persons in poverty. And look at the percent with college degrees. You all see that? Of course, you see the percent of high school graduates are higher. Hispanic population, language other than English, you can see that as well. Households with computers. I was pretty impressed with that one, though. I thought we would have a big divide, so not too big of a divide with the digital. And then, of course, Charles put the square miles and the population per square mile. So I didn't feel the need to have to share the academic data because we've already talked about academic data. But I did want the principals to get an idea as to our neighborhood. We are in a neighborhood, and that neighborhood is the metro Atlanta area, isn't it? We're in a neighborhood, and oftentimes we try to look at other school systems as, as to what are they doing to address their data, their student population. But as I began to look and think and ponder and reflect, I came to the conclusion that really those school systems, the Cobbs, the DeKalbs, the Fulton, Gwinnett, they are really not our model. Because we're dealing with a situation that, a context that clearly is not of our design and of our making, but nonetheless, it's our reality. It's our reality. And so, we all take journeys, and one journey that I'm on and we're on is what can we do to fundamentally shift the outcomes in the school system, to change things. And one thing we've shared with the principal as we looked at John Hattie's research, one action that is positively correlated to improve academic achievement that we've not leveraged is what we call student expectations. It's one of the most highly positively correlated factors for improving outcomes, student expectations. So as we looked at our data, and Dr. Lee will talk about some data points in her presentation, but as we started looking at the data, we started looking at the population, I noticed some trends in the district, that the kids who were coming from college-educated households, whose parents were college-educated, who accessed certain programs, those kids were doing pretty good. About 25% of them in the district. But the other 75 to 80%, they were about doing the same. And I thought, and we thought, and I know you have thought, if we continue to do what we've been doing, why should we expect to see our outcomes significantly, fundamentally change? And so the question that I have is, I said, what can we actually do to disrupt some of the performance and low expectations? What can we do? And we looked around the nation, the large urban, suburban districts, we've got some very good rural districts, suburban, etc. And many of them, as the districts on the paper you have there, you take away a lot of their high-performing, high-income children, they're in the same situation that we're in. See, Clayton is a unique county. We don't have the high-income families to mask our data like a lot of other counties do. Y'all hear me? That doesn't mean that they're not doing good work, but if you tease out the data for kids coming from similar income levels and similar backgrounds, you'll see that Clayton is probably doing a whole lot better than most. But our data is what we call the real data. Not that their data isn't real, because we don't have pockets of affluence in Clayton County to bump up, ramp up, or mask our challenges. And so over years, Clayton has gotten this narrative, this history, and we have, I think, sometimes contributed to perpetuating that narrative. People say something about us because we're not that informed. We just repeat because sometimes we don't want to challenge. But I want to challenge us as a school system to first get in tune with our context and to challenge ourselves to rewrite the narrative. And so as we look around the nation, and as we interact with College Board and National Math Science Initiative and some other partners, we realize that many districts are doing the status quo thing. A certain group of kids who have that meet certain demographic indicators, those are the kids that we have high expectations for, but all the other kids, we just kind of make do. Expect them to make do or get by. Our vision for Clayton County is bigger than our history. It's bigger than our current reality. It's bigger than our culture. It's bigger than our experiences. It's bigger than all of those things. And so I'm asking, and I've asked the principals and the administrators, the counselors, and teachers, I'm asking you all to join us in this risk-taking endeavor. It is a risk-taking endeavor, and we encourage young people. You've heard in your schools of education that leaders and effective leaders take risks, and they support risk-taking. Well, we've decided to take a risk as a county. Instead of doing it the way we've been doing it every year, starting the new year, fall of this year, we're going to do it differently. Instead of having high expectations for a small percent of students, we have decided that it is appropriate and advantageous to have high expectations for all students. In the process of having high expectations for all students, I can share with you that high performance will be achieved. And we have started to see our district move in that direction. 1%, 2%, 3% here, some schools making more than that, double-digit gains. But how do we as a system, as a school system, fundamentally move all of our schools to higher levels of performance. That is our work. That is our challenge. And our vision has to be, how do we do that? How do we actually achieve high performance given our context? Rewriting the narrative, recognizing our reality, we understand. But how do we fundamentally shift our outcomes in this school system? We've come to the conclusion that in order to do that, we've got to create our own model. There are no models out there for us to follow. So what we've decided to do, and that's why we're having this conversation with you today as our front line, in the field, teaching every day, building relationships with students, individuals who are really the ones responsible for helping us get this vision achieved. We want to significantly, fundamentally change and shift the outcomes in our school system, and we want to leverage high expectations for all students. For all students, not a small group, not kids at a certain school, all schools, all grade levels, all students. And so, our why today is to basically to continue to walk out the vision of high performance that we have. To do something, honestly, that hadn't been done, that is really a risk. It's a risk. But it's a risk for the benefit of all children that is well worth taking. A risk that we believe that if we shoot for 100%, if we land at 80%, we're still better than we were. It's a risk that says we can continue to do what we've been doing and continue getting the results that we've gotten, or we can fundamentally, at our core, decide to do something innovative, different, that recognizes our reality, and we can't do what everyone else is doing. We've got to do something different. And so that's our why today, to share with you what we're doing differently, to clearly give you an opportunity to engage with us, but we're counting, and this is so important, we've got to build that coherence as we share with the principals and the parents and the board members. We may not all agree on the strategy, but at some point as a team we develop consensus. And when you develop consensus, while I may not necessarily agree, I may have my own opinion about something, but at some point we say, okay, if this is what we're doing as a team, then this is what we're going to do as a team. And when we leave the locker room, we leave out to win the game. Does that make sense, everybody? And I'm asking principals and teachers and parents and board members and all to have a degree of confidence in the leadership, to allow us to be innovative and to be risk takers, to be informed risk takers, to do something heretofore that has not been done in an effort to actually accelerate our movement towards higher levels of performance. And so that's why we're here today, and I look forward to supporting all of us in this effort, hearing your feedback, but most importantly, seeing the improvements and the performance of our students, as I know through experience, they will land in a higher place than they have landed in past years. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Beasley. So how many of you are sort of excited about this effort we're taking? And some of you are probably thinking excitement is not my adjective. But it is a bold, innovative move on behalf of our students. Because as Dr. Beasley mentioned, we have a portion of students who are graduating. They are ready. When they walk into college, they've already been exposed to these skills, because they've been in learning environments or even home environments where these skills are fostered regularly. But for those kids who are not in those environments or have those expectations, then it's truly a barrier when they graduate or if they graduate from high school. And so as we go through the plan now, as Dr. Beasley stated, you're the front line. I really want you to think through it from a perspective of we are shifting and ramping up the learning, but from your perspective, what are some considerations that we may not have thought through? So after we go through it, we want to hear your questions, we want to hear your suggestions for how to make this the most supportive implementation as possible. I would like to just start by sharing quickly some of the percents of our students who are in those environments. So in elementary, we have about 27,000 students. Of those students, 4% of those students are in the gifted program. At the middle school level, 6%. At the high school, we have about 23, a quarter of our kids taking advanced placement. And of those students in advanced placement, some of them are also taking dual enrollment or not doing AP, but they're doing dual enrollment. But as you can see, again, that's still a small portion of students. So what we began to do was to dig even deeper, looking at our students from last year who did take 6th grade accelerated math. So one of the expectations will be for next year that our rising 6th graders, all of our rising 6th graders will be in accelerated math, accelerated grade 6 mathematics. So we had a portion of students over each of the years that have been in there, and for this past school year, look at their performance. Those students who were already in the accelerated math class scored at 75% proficient or distinguished. It is important to note that that was not a special population of students. There are several criteria that could go into a student taking accelerated math previously. For the rising 9th graders, our expectation will be that they take at least one advanced placement course. And also they select at least one CTAE pathway course. So let me go back to the advanced placement. Our whole mantra is college and career readiness. If our students haven't had a college and career ready experience before they graduate, then many may not be college and career ready. And if I were to ask some of us to raise our hands, we may say, wow, college really was a culture shock. So by our students taking at least one advanced placement course, at least they have been exposed to what the expectations are for a college preparatory course. So what we've been doing is working with College Board, as you all know, that's our partners for the AP exams, and our National Math Science Institute to just talk about what are those courses that students tend to be successful in when during their first introduction. So the options you'll hear later from the coordinators. We're looking at AP Environmental Science or AP Human Geography or Computer Science Principles or an AP Foreign Language. So those are some of our initial options for students, but that doesn't mean they have to only choose from those options. For the CTAE, one CTAE course, you know, we have 17 career clusters, and within those different industries, there are different pathways. So our students who tend to complete a pathway, they're graduating at a 95%. So students who enter high school and they say, I want to be in healthcare field, and they have that pathway, they complete it, they're graduating. So the goal would be to have more of our students visualizing their careers earlier, even before high school. Start thinking about what is it you're good at, what are your aptitudes and your interests. And we have a program called Youth Science that our middle school students can take to start thinking about that. So essentially, rising 6th graders, grade 6 accelerated math, and then rising 9th graders, at least one what? AP and one CTAE pathway. Yeah. And then you can see the data here. So those students last year who had AP US History and AP Language and Composition, this is how they performed on the Georgia milestones for their assessment. And you see the comparison with those students that were not in there. And the College Board research tells us that students who are even in the class, getting the exposure and the access, perform better than students who may not have had that access. So the opportunity myth was I would say, a salient briefing that brought to the forefront why we had to provide more students with grade appropriate material, ensure that all students are getting grade appropriate content exposure. How many of you teach EIP? You're part of the early intervention program. Okay, great, thank you. And I do remember over the past couple of years, there have been requests from elementary that our students need more time in the core class, right? Didn't we hear that? And what was your reasoning for wanting them to have more time in the Tier 1 or core program? The access, right? And so this year, Christy Heath beautifully worked with the team to make sure we implemented different models, but you all already had that thinking. When we're pulling them out every day, that's not preparing them in the best format for grade appropriate content. And so this article just substantiates that. So very quickly, I would like to show you a video production from some of our students that have taken dual enrollment, AP, and I just want you to hear their perspective on how it has been beneficial, as well as hear from their parents on how they've observed the benefits. When you think of culture, you think about what's the norm. And so for our school district, we're excited to share the measures that we're taking to cultivate a culture of high performance. We are moving beyond traditional educational practices. We want to ensure that more of our students have access to accelerated and advanced learning experiences, because it's within these classrooms that our students' critical thinking, creativity, communication, and adaptation skills are developed.
Students who apply themselves to rigorous coursework open themselves up to growing in critical thinking, collaborating with innovative people and practices, and learning how to organize their future.
You learn many new skills. Become more prepared to handle harder challenges because the workload is harder. They can have the challenge that they wouldn't have otherwise, and they can grow exponentially beyond the peers with whom they're going to be competing outside of high school.
To see him really being challenged to be his best has really been remarkable. The classes that he's taken are rigorous. However, he feels prepared. He feels confident that he can be successful in those classes, even before going to college.
Dual enrollment definitely taught me to mature quicker. It made me more independent. It taught me that college might not always be easy, but it's important to keep a strong support system around you and give it all that you have.
A lot of times whenever students are faced with a more difficult course, it's kind of like walking on thin ice. They're not quite sure where to go, so they need that direction. The fact that they have somebody there to help them through it, the fact that they can see successes, that helps to build that motivation.
While you're trying to balance high school and games and fun and clubs, while also trying to balance those grades, definitely takes time management. I had to get a planner.
I used to procrastinate a lot, and it's been really stressful because with AP classes, procrastination will lead you failing, especially when you're taking more than one.
He has become very organized. His sensitivity or attentiveness, I should say, to deadlines. He knows if he has an exam. He prepares himself.
AP, of course, it's going to be more work. It's more strenuous on the student's mind, and more homework, more projects, a harder test.
I would say take a deep breath and just understand and know that it's truly going to benefit your child.
When I speak to parents, a lot of times they'll say, well, I'm not sure exactly what I can do to assist them. And I always tell them, well, you're not taking the class. Your child's taking the class. You're not expected to be the teacher. You're not expected to be the professor walking them through the content. That's their role. But you can still be supportive at home.
And as a parent, I would encourage all parents to get in, be involved, be a part, be a support to the school system, to the teachers, but most of all to your students.
Clayton County Public Schools has designed a centralized hub that pulls back the curtain and exposes what all students and parents need to know to start building that pathway toward a career. We're introducing the CCPS High Performance Platform. With a couple of clicks, parents and students are able to get information about advanced learning opportunities.
Let's thank our students for sharing their learning. And you'll learn more about the High Performance Hub in a moment when Christy shares how we are going to support various stakeholders in the transition. Let me go back to the presentation. So a part of the planning and development for the advanced learning plan has been a collective effort. And so in the room, you probably see many of these individuals. I see Student Support Services, our ESOL department. I see our Department of Exceptional Students, our School Leadership and Improvement, our Research Department, Assessment Department, our Behavioral Department. So it's our CIA department. We're all here. So again, we put out on the table every question, well, many of the questions that we would need to think through, many of potential barriers or challenges. And so again, these are some of the departments and divisions and individuals who have contributed to fleshing out the plan. So very quickly, and then we're going to go over the specifics. K-5, there will be an interdisciplinary STEM-based research project. And so not similar, but going beyond the traditional science project, getting our students to delve more into these skills. And so these are some of the core skills and knowledge that our students would need as they embark upon more accelerated and advanced learning experiences. They should have the stamina to sift through resources, to examine credibility. They should be able to distinguish fact from opinion. Don't you agree that's an important skill? Yes. They should be able to compose viable arguments, be able to present. And so Janetta will speak more to that when she shares, but these are just some of the ways that we're creating a pipeline of readiness at the K-5 level. We already noted that 6th graders are taking accelerated math, 9th graders, 1 AP course and 1 CTAE pathway course. And the various benefits, I think Dr. Beasley really hit on the why. Again, elementary, they start building those critical thinking skills earlier. Middle school, they ultimately, by taking the 6th grade accelerated class, Dr. Clark is going to speak to how powerful that's going to be for our students to take that high school algebra or high school physical science before they leave middle school. And then for high school, we want our students to, as critically as learning how to manage the content, students having room in their schedule to take higher level coursework because colleges look for that. And also with the CTAE, many of our students will receive licensure and industry certification where they can have entry-level employment or they can decide to go on to college to deepen their skills. We have kids graduating with, they will be firefighters, EMT certified when they leave. We have other kids who are going into the medical field. And so we really want our students to capitalize on that platform. So at this time, I would like to invite Dr. Clark and Ms. Greenwood up to speak to you about the course sequence, just so you have the insight of where our students are headed once they transition from elementary.
Good afternoon. So as we know, we are opening the opportunities for our students to accelerate or advance at the high school level. That means we have to set a foundation for those students so that they will be able to be successful in those accelerated or advanced classes. Algebra 1 is what we call the gatekeeper to acceleration. The concepts that our students learn in Algebra 1 set the foundation for them to be able to excel in a physical science or a physics class, for them to be able to excel in a chemistry class and be able to balance those equations. It sets the foundation for the type of thinking, the problem solving, the reasoning that students will have to do when they do advanced research in a social studies or an English language arts class. And they have to synthesize the information that they're gathering, or they have to interpret a graph or a data chart. So that Algebra 1 course that a student takes, it sets the foundation for all of the advanced learning courses that we are looking for students to take in high school. So if we wait until students get into high school to take Algebra 1, they are trying to build these skills at the same time as they are trying to accelerate themselves. So the goal is for them to take that Algebra 1 course before they get to high school. So in order for students to take Algebra 1 before high school, of course, there are some other foundational skills they have to develop on the way to Algebra 1. And so that's where Accelerated Math 6 and Accelerated Math 7 come in. By taking Accelerated Math 6 and Accelerated Math 7, students are able to complete the concepts that are in Math 6, Math 7, and Math 8 in 2 years. That way they are prepared to take Algebra 1 by the 8th grade. So what does that mean then for elementary? So next year, it's going to be very important that our elementary teachers are paying very close attention to our core curriculum, our Clayton County scope and sequence. Because I believe it's already been said that Clayton County is going to be doing some things that you will not see in other places. So in Clayton County, we are going to be shifting some standards down so that our students in elementary are better prepared. So when they come out of the 5th grade, they are ready to be successful in that Math 6 Accelerated. So as we are going through kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, you're going through your curriculum, expect to see a few changes in the standards that your students will be learning. So we're going to have to pay very close attention to that curriculum. We're going to have to plan a little bit differently so that we are preparing our lessons so that students are able to continually cycle through those prerequisite concepts that they will need in order to be able to stay on pace as they move forward. It's going to be very important for our kids so that by the time they get into 6th grade, they're already prepared to accelerate. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. So the K-5 STEM research program or project that students will engage in will also provide them with that foundational support that they need to be able to take AP Sciences as 9th graders or to move into an accelerated middle school course at 6th grade. So it's very important that early on we prepare the students to start thinking critically and have a problem-solving mind approach to everything that they see. And so with that in mind, even as kindergartners, they can problem solve. They can look for patterns. They can look for trends and actually use evidence to distinguish between facts and opinions, to actually make statements based on something. And so we're not saying they're going to write a 20-page paper by the end of 5th grade, but we are saying that students will be looking at a real-world problem and understanding the relevance of what they're learning in their kindergarten class all the way up to 5th grade and understand how to apply their knowledge. And that's really what it's all about. We want to make sure we start moving away from, oh, I only teach math, or oh, I only teach science, and recognize that we really live in all disciplines. And so everything that we're doing is relevant and helping the students start making those connections. So with the STEM research project, they'll start it in kindergarten with relevant standards, but they will progress and pull that research project along all the way up to 5th grade. And then they may even decide to continue on with it 6th through 12, depending on their own interests. But it really helps develop their interests because we talked about that CTAE pathway and getting them to think about what are their interests early on. That research project lets them discover that early on in K-5. Now, for middle school, what we're proposing is that students, they'll still take 6th grade earth science. They will not accelerate at 6th grade for science. They'll focus primarily on the math. But when they become 7th graders, they will now engage in a more integrated curriculum reflective of physical science and life science. Because once again, we're really trying to move away from this mindset of teaching topics, but teaching concepts. And so there is physical science and life science. You cannot have life without chemistry and physics. So we're really going to start helping students to make those connections more, but it also provides them with the foundation they need that as 8th graders, they can take the high school physical science course. The great thing is, by the time they go through the accelerated pathway of 6th grade math, and they become 8th graders, all students will be taking Algebra 1 and high school physical science. So that's great that they actually can finish middle school with 2 high school courses already underneath their belt. And then as high school students, remember back in K-5, they've already done this great research project that has prepared them for that critical thinking and problem solving, so 9th grade is going to be a breeze now. because now they're going to walk into these AP classes knowing how to look at things from a problem-solving mindset. And so the students will engage in options like AP Environmental for 9th grade and AP Computer Science for 9th grade as well. The AP Computer Science, what's so fabulous about that course is, one, it's so on topic, or I'm sorry, so on trend right now. It's all about coding, it's the hands-on, and it's performance-based. So traditionally, our AP courses have a written exam in the spring. AP Computer Science Principles actually has two components. They have a performance space where they're doing projects that they're submitting all throughout the year that's part of their exam grade, and they also have the written piece. What's so great about that is we know our students perform very well when they can show what they know versus having to just take a test. So if you don't have a great test taker, they actually have two options to really demonstrate their knowledge. AP Environmental Science, lastly, is that course that you typically take if you're not going to be a science major. So why not go ahead and have the students who are even considering going to college, or maybe not considering going to college, but have that opportunity to expose them to that AP Environmental Science course. So one, they see science is not as intimidating as we thought it was, and that once again it is accessible for all students to actually do and do well in. So that's pretty much everything that's going on with science, and we are really looking forward to this great opportunity. I think the last thing I didn't mention was about the physics for high school. So eventually, because all students will be taking physical science as 8th graders, that does mean that at the high school level, it will phase out. And so students will be expected to take physics. And we got to remember, physical science has physics in it, just like it has chemistry in it. So it's really not expecting them to do anything different. Now they'll just be taking a course that's only focused on one thing versus trying to make them focus on two things at the same time. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. So at this time, because I'm sure you're wondering, how are we going to do this? What support will be in place? For everyone. And so Christy Heath, our Advanced Learning and Intervention Coordinator, is going to share the how that we've thought through so far.
Hello everyone, how are you doing? And first of all, thank you. Thank you for coming out here and hearing this. This matters to us, okay? So it's very important. So when we put this together, as Dr. Lee was talking about, a lot of this was not just within us. It was so many different other organizations and divisions that we looked at. So what we have to think about is a couple of things that we're looking for. And I'm sorry, I'm going to grab this so I make sure I'm saying what I'm saying to you. But modes of communication. So one of them that's really important is that we're doing what we're doing right now. But we're also talking to students too. So we're going to be talking to the advisory council students. We're going to get that. We're looking at what parent feedback we're getting from this. So those are things that we're looking for. We're also making sure that our website's going to be out, that we're talking more about this, because this is not the first conversation. This is one of many conversations that we will have this year moving into next year, because we have to all together look at this. Also, professional learning. One of the key things we've got to really think about with professional learning is our growth mindset. Remember what Dr. Beasley said in the beginning? Sometimes we've heard a lot. I've been in this county for 30 years. I've seen all kinds of stuff. And sometimes it really beats us down by what people say about this county. When we know ourselves from the children that we teach, we know they can do this. We know what they can attain. I see it from the children that I still stay in contact with. They're doing fabulous things. Well, we have to change that mindset. We've got to find that growth mindset. This is going to be tough. It's going to be hard, but we can do it because we are Clayton County, and that means a lot to us. Also, we want to make sure that we're going to be really looking into content development. We realize that when you're looking at a curriculum where you're going to be pulling some physical science into your life science, I could imagine a few years ago if I had heard that, I might have been a little nervous about it. Well, I agree. After I taught physical science, it was totally interwoven into life science. We just have to start looking at this conceptually different. So we're going to be looking at different professional development, how we help with our students, our teachers, and with our leaders. We're also going to be making sure we're looking at a lot of our core curriculum, so there's going to be some revisions done. We're going to be looking at our textbooks and what kind of instruction we're doing. And we're also looking at how we're monitoring this. How is this being done? So this is really important. So part of that goes into who are our partners in this. We're not in this alone, okay? So it's not just going to be Clayton County. So we have a lot of great support. So not only do we have College Board, we have SAT, and College Board is with SAT, PSAT, they're also with the advanced placement courses. There really have been, we've actually had them in the conversations with us. Also, the National Math Science Initiative, those of you who are gifted in EIP, you've heard me talking about this, but that's where we're going in. We have a huge multi-million-dollar grant where we're providing professional development to our AP teachers at the high school level, and not only are the teachers getting the AP, but the PD, but so are the students. They're actually going to Saturday academies where they're getting professional development with master teachers and things like that. So those are things that we're bringing in. So we have all of these different support systems that you see back here. We're not just looking at AP. Guys, we're looking at International Baccalaureate. We're looking at the Cambridge. Many of you are schools that are actually going to support these new programs that are coming through. We're also looking at dual enrollment. We want our children to be so well prepared by the time they walk into 9th grade, they already have a good idea of where they're going and how they're doing that. And so that's really exciting. From there, what we did in the video, we talked about the High Performance Hub, but we're also going to show you from the desk of CIA. So there are, those of you who are EIP and gifted know, I have these hubs that you go to. So I have the Gifted Brain Trust, and I also have the EIP Crossroads. And you can find anything on these hubs. This has been my huge light bulb moment this year. So what we're doing is we also have, you can find anything you need to know about curriculum instruction and assessment. And so if you go to, and we'll make sure you get the website, but it's just a tinyurl.com/, and then you want to do desk is capitalized, DESK of CIA. CIA is all uppercase, and that's all one word, desk of CIA. So it's tinyurl.com/desk of CIA. And guys, when you do it, look, you can get every single one of the hubs that we've put together. You can also be able to look at the advanced learning plan. We have our rubrics and our high impact practices on there. It also goes in and it'll show you, it shows you what the principals get at the principals meeting. You'll get to see what we're talking about in CIA. You'll also see the articles that are the pinnacle research as to why we're doing what we're doing. So you see the article adding it up, which explains why we look at math differently. Or if you want to know the research behind DBQs, that research is there. If you want to learn more about argument-driven inquiry, that research is there. So you have those hubs, and then that takes you to the final hub, which is the High Performance Hub. We want you to share the High Performance Hub with your parents and students. What I find is in this position is a lot of us don't start thinking, as a parent or a teacher, and this was my fault. I didn't do this in middle school. I wasn't thinking for my 7th and 8th graders, what were they going to do when they got to high school or out of high school? Shame on me. I should have been thinking that way for them so I could help them. Because guys, 4th and 5th graders now need to be thinking about what am I doing? What's my pathway in Clayton County? Not only do we have magnet programs that they can go through, but there's all kinds of different things that they could be. Do they know that they can take 1 to 2 high school courses in middle school? Do they know what dual enrollment is for them? Do they understand that by the time they graduate from high school, they could possibly also have an associate's degree in from college? Do we understand that many of our students have the ability to knock 2 or 3 years off their college and not even have to pay for it? What a remarkable thing. But a fourth grader needs to start thinking about that. A fifth grader needs to start thinking. They need to think about what CTA pathways could they do. There's even certain CTA pathways that when they can go to college free with. These are things, this motivates, this moves our county so that we start making that move toward, this is what we've just been doing. No, this is what we can do and we can move. And that to me is so exciting. So we just want to make sure that you have these opportunities for you to be able to go through and look at these hubs and get that information. You want to turn it back over?
Thank you, Christy. Thank you so much. So you all will receive all resources, the PowerPoint, as well as the various hubs. But to summarize, before we do the Q&A, I think we're all aware of the course changes. Dr. Beasley uses the phrase, we're disrupting traditional practices. So our disruptions are the changes in the scheduling, the shifting in the curriculum, as well as the support, the ongoing training and support for our teachers. And the summer program, we didn't mention that, but this summer our rising 6th graders and our rising 9th graders will